Ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing it again. Just like Zohan Mamdani in New York, Philadelphia's mayor, Cheryl Parker, has decided that the solution to her city's budget woes isn't to cut the fat, it's to pick taxpayers' pockets. Philadelphia's mayor decided that she's going to double down on a plan to slap a $1 tax on every single rideshare trip in Philadelphia. And folks, get this. She calls it a moral and ethical necessity to say to schools. But as we all know, when a Democrat talks about morals, it's usually followed by them reaching for your back pocket. And so we got a lot to break down and get into. But if you are enjoying the content, you can go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know. And to stay locked in with all videos in the future, subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into it.
Fred, there were still about 100 positions that could have been cut, reassigned. The mayor wanted to get that down to zero, so they worked with their financial experts, the city and the school district to get that down to zero. But the actual proposal for the rideshare tax, if you pick up a Uber, a rideshare here at City Hall or anywhere around the city, that tax would still be $1.
Let me hear you all say $300 billion. $300 billion. Structural deficit.
Mayor Cheryl Parker leading a chant and a campaign for a new rideshare tax that would raise money for Philly schools, making the case that the money makes a difference for students.
This is not just a budget issue. For us, this is very much a student issue.
The mayor, superintendent, teachers union, and other education advocates today inside City Hall to promote the plan and announce that officials have figured out how to make the city dollars, $48 million from the new rideshare tax and another $2.4 million from an existing real estate tax, save all 340 positions that were going to be cut instead of just most of them.
As mayor of the city of Philadelphia, I want to be absolutely clear. I am not willing to stand by and watch our school district of Philadelphia lose 148 teachers, 23 counselors, and 119 climate staff. That is absolutely unacceptable.
The mayor is proposing a $1 tax on rideshare rides originating in the city. While she and supporters of the tax say rideshare companies can absorb it, Uber has already said it will pass it on to riders. Uber in a statement today saying in part, quote, in a moment of real affordability strain, adding a new $1 fee on top of the existing 1.4% rideshare fee creates a regressive double tax that will limit access to work, school, and essential services, even as thousands of jurisdictions across the country choose not to tax rideshare at all, end quote. While the mayor announced the $1 earlier this spring, the plan was going to leave about 100 positions to be reassigned. Dr. Watlington, what are you cutting instead?
We're cutting much less because we will absolutely cut less, significantly less, as a result of these $50.4 million of new dollars. We will still be making some cuts to the central office, which is already a lean central office, the Dr. Constance E. Clayton Education Center. There are some non-permanent building substitutes, people who come into schools to help cover classes when we have a teacher vacancies.
Watlington also saying they're taking a hard look at return on investment from school district contracts. While the district waits to find out whether city council members will approve the new proposed tax, school officials are moving ahead with plans and cuts that don't include the new money.
If and when this funding source comes through, thanks to our mayor, we will take those pencil plans, we'll erase them.
How did Philadelphia get into this $300 million hole? They'll tell you it's underfunding or state inequity. That's a flat out lie. This deficit is a direct result of the COVID cliff. You see, during the pandemic, the Philadelphia School District was handed a staggering $1.5 billion in federal relief money funds. One-time cash meant for emergencies. And what did they do? Well, ladies and gentlemen, they behaved like a lottery winner on a bender. Instead of using that money for one-time infrastructure fixes, they baked that temporary cash into permanent salaries, permanent staff, and permanent administrative bloat. They knew, ladies and gentlemen, for 3 years, that this federal gravy train was gonna hit the buffers in 2026. Did they scale back? No. Did they prepare? No. They kept hiring. And get this, while they were crying broke and threatening to cut 340 school-based jobs, they spent $390,000 on a pre-K marketing campaign for enrollment. Let that sink in. I mean, first off, personally, why do you really need to market kids getting into school? That's another story, though. Secondly, they don't have money for teachers, but they have nearly $500,000 for billboards and social media ads to tell people about a school system they're already failing in. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they built a house of cards on taxpayer dollars, and now that the wind is blowing and the federal oversight is tightening, they're holding the drivers and rioters of Philadelphia hostage to pay for their fiscal hangover, and it's a disgrace.
City officials say the $1 tax on rides would generate $48 million for the school district. We spoke to a rideshare user who says there needs to be another solution.
There's other ways. We already pay enough taxes. I have no kids, and the taxes that come out of my paycheck is ridiculous. So, I mean, how much more do I need to pay? I don't understand.
Uber is really expensive, and it's really important to make sure the driver gets tipped. So I feel like if it's added onto the cost of the ride, people won't tip the driver.
But let's talk about what the taxpayers are actually getting for this investment. Parker wants residents in Philadelphia to pay more, but what is the product? Let's look at the data. In the Philadelphia School District, the latest national report card shows that 85% of 8th graders are not proficient in math. Read that again, ladies and gentlemen. Over 80% of the kids in the system, the same system Parker wants to subsidize with rideshare dollars, cannot do math at grade level. In reading, it's 82% below proficiency. Compare that to the suburbs just 5 miles away outside of Philadelphia, which are ranked among some of the top in the nation. And so this isn't a funding problem. It's a performance problem. It's a culture of failure. In the private sector, if you produced the 80% failure rate, your business would be shuttered. You'd be bankrupt, and you'd be lucky not to be in court for fraud. But in Philadelphia, they give the superintendent $367K a year, and recently a 3% raise, and the mayor gives residents a tax hike, disguised as compassion for the kids. Let's continue.
Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker on her proposed $1 rideshare tax aimed at the school district of Philadelphia's budget deficit. Behind her, the superintendent of schools, Dr. Watlington, along with advocates and educational unions, all on one accord.
We need the dollars. This is not a political decision. This is not an educational decision. This is a moral and ethical decision for our children.
The school district of Philadelphia says the district faces a $300 million structural deficit, which means 340 school-based positions, including teachers, are at risk of being cut. The plan for Mayor Parker's rideshare tax would generate $48 million for the school district, along with $2.4 million from her proposed use and occupancy tax from cell towers, all adding up to $50.4 million needed to meet the needs of the school district.
If we enact this $1 per ride tax, that would make Philadelphia the 52nd state or local government in the nation to introduce a ride share surcharge.
The equation, however, would mean cuts to the school district's central office, along with substitutes and a hard look at some of the district's current contracts, something Dr. Tony Watlington says is critical.
School-based positions will be restored. We won't have to make those cuts. We won't have to reassign.
And just like Mom Donnie in New York, who uses the same tired Democrat playbook of tax the rich businesses because they can afford it, Parker's trying to guilt trip residents into thinking the same thing. It's the Democrat way. Mess up the budget, destroy the quality of life, and then demand a slush fund from the survivors to keep the machine running. They want to frame this as tax the rich, ladies and gentlemen, or those greedy rideshare companies. If you look at the data, though, the reality hits different. 60% of these rides in Philadelphia start or end in low-income neighborhoods. These are transportation deserts where the city's own buses and trains are either a total disaster, late, or frankly, too dangerous to ride after dark. And so in the name of funding the schools, Parker's effectively taxing the single moms, the student, and the blue-collar worker who are just trying to survive in a city that's already taxed to kingdom come. Rideshare companies already pay a 1.4% fee to the Philadelphia Parking Authority. And so this additional fee is a double tax essentially. It's a regressive tax that hits the poorest the hardest. And remember, Parker actually had the nerve to say that the companies don't have to pass this cost to the riders, but if you hike the cost of a service by 500%, which is what this jump from 20 cents to $1 represents, the consumer pays, always. The truth is, Parker doesn't care about the taxpayer. She views every person who lives in the city of Philadelphia as a personal slush fund for her administration. They aren't trying to solve the school deficit. They're trying to avoid the political pain of cutting a single redundant administrator from a central office that's more interested in equity marketing than teaching kids how to read. But listen here as she gives an animated rant about how the multi-million-dollar ride shares, they can afford it, so why not? Take a listen.
They're multi-billion-dollar tech companies, and they have a right to say whatever they say to justify their actions. But I'm telling you what they don't have to do. If they pass the dollar on to the riders, that is their decision. They don't have to do it.
Now, this proposed tax goes through and is approved by City Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't about an additional dollar for a ride. It's about the principle of accountability. We're living in a time where the people in charge in these Democrat cities, some of the greatest cities, Parker in Philadelphia, Mamdani in New York, Brandon Johnson in Chicago, have decided that taxpayers are nothing more than a captive source of revenue. They have created a death spiral. They drive the schools into the ground. They let the transit systems become rolling crime scenes. And then when the bill comes due for their incompetence, they look at you and say, pay up. It's for the kids. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now let me hear back from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, if you do enjoy the content, smash that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to stay locked in with all future videos. And as always, until next time.